Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Pragya Shukla. My today's topic for lecture is witch hunting in India. What is witch hunting and witchcraft? Witch hunting is superstitious practice which entails the worst forms of cultural violence against women in a society. It's manifestation of violence against women that is practiced in the name of culture, religion, social norms, practices, which are usually overlooked by the society. So we find that it's a kind of violence which is prevalent in the society in the form of culture, religion, social norms, and practices. And it's also a stigmatization of specific groups of people, which mostly contains widowed women, women who are childless, old women, women of lower caste, etc. Next, if we trace back about the history of witch hunting, we have a certain points like the atrocious witch hunting attacks were very common in Europe in the 13th century. Then it moved on to Germany in 1587, then in America in the early period from 1450 to 1750. Some events which we see from England to Europe are in England under the reign of Queen Elizabeth. There were three major acts were enacted to punish witches. A woman named Agnes Waterhouse was the first person to be executed in England for witchcraft in the famous trial of the Chelmsford witches. King James I of England supported witch hunts, which led to the trial of the Pendle witches in the early 1600s. And similarly, it also transferred to the whole European continent, and there were some trials like Trier witch trials was the largest witch trial in European history. Over 368 people were executed between 1581 and 1593, which included respected citizens, professors, judges, etc. Then, if we see in America, there was this trial named the Salem witch trial that took place in Salem village of Massachusetts in 1690, marked the beginning of the practice in America. Many executions were also took place during this trial. Now, next point is how witch hunting is originated in India. The exact date of origin of witch hunting in India is not known, and the practice is said to have emanated hundreds of years ago in Morigaon district of Assam, which is famously called as the Indian capital of black magic and is the abode of people who want to learn witchcraft. The practice is a customary one in India and is prevalent in rural isolated areas, especially among the tribal population. The incidences of witch hunting are also prominent in Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Haryana, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Odisha, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, and West Bengal. Then we'll see how socio-cultural deprivation of these victims of these communities are done. The practice of witchcraft and witch hunting in parts of India appears to be prevalent predominantly among certain castes and tribes. These communities have lived a socially, economically, educationally excluded and deprived life for centuries. And the victim is subjected to numerous forms of torture, beatings, burns, paraded naked through the village, forced to eat human excrements, and sometimes even they are raped. In some cases, their hairs are cut off, and the victims and the children are socially excluded and even put to death. So we can see how the victims of social witch huntings are basically how they are socially excluded and how they are treated in the society. Then next point is what are the reasons for victimization? And we see the reasons, then we'll see that it's a combination of superstitious beliefs, religious practices, and patriarchal norms resulting in women being accused of witchcraft. Witch hunting is often deployed to deprive women of land and property also, and to take revenge where women refuses sexual advances, and to punish women for petty disputes. So these are the basic main reasons for victimization. And some other are lack of education, health services have also contributed into the continuation of this antiquated practice of witch hunting. And next is the complexity of the issue and its punitive dimension can be found in the blurring of boundaries between protector and perpetrators. This is because perpetrators are often members of their own family, neighborhood, and their own community. Women themselves resist challenging the patriarchal norms and superstitions. This is one of the main reasons we can trace. And moreover, the identity politics of Adivasi versus non-Adivasi overtakes the reality of patriarchal violence within the Adivasi community. Society and governments are hardly outraged over the torture, rape, and murders of tribal, rural women in the name of witch hunting. As a result of this lethargic response and action, accused goes unpunished. Then we see how many types of witch hunting attacks are there prevalent in India. First one is calculated attack. These are the planned attacks designed to fulfill some particular object, including unlawfully grabbing properties, sexual harassment, and for taking all these for revenge purpose. Next, surprise attacks. These attacks happen without any prior conflict, and the victim has no knowledge of the accusations prior to these attacks. Surprise attacks are more violent than the calculated ones. Countries where witch hunting is still prevalent, we can name down these countries like Saudi Arabia, Tanzania, Gambia, Nepal, India, Papua New Guinea, Uganda, Mexico, South Africa, Chile, West Indies. These are the countries where still this atrocious activity or witch hunting is still prevalent. Then in India or all over the world, we will see how these cases of witch hunting are, how many cases of these witch hunting are there. In Tanzania, 400 people were killed in the witch hunts in 2016. In India, 2,097 murders were committed with the motive of witch hunting between 2000 to 2012. In Jharkhand, the anti-witch hunting law was passed in 2001, but in 2015, 5 women were brutally murdered after being attacked by a mob on accusation of witchcraft. In Odisha, 99 cases of witch hunting were reported in 2017, 83 in 2016, and 58 in 2015. Similarly, in Assam, 114 women and 79 men were branded as witches and thereafter killed, and 202 such cases have been registered between 2001 to 2017. Then if we see the data of accused of witchcraft and killed, this is the source of NCRB till 2016. The data is till 2016 only. From the data, we can see that maximum number of accused of witchcraft and they are killed are in Jharkhand. That is, the number is 27. And in Odisha, that number is 24, Madhya Pradesh 19, Chhattisgarh 17, and Gujarat 14. Why is witch hunting still thriving? If we question with ourselves, we'll find that the first which pops up in our mind is the first is superstitious belief. People believes that witches have magical powers which they use to attack human, destroy crops, cause harm to animals, influence body and mind of others, and to gain what is beyond the medical profession. Next, lack of knowledge. Of course, there was a lack of knowledge. People in far-flung, isolated areas with minimum or no educational facilities, or the old illiterate people of villages, blame women for the bad happenings when they fail to explain the reason behind them. Next, lack of resources, poverty, refusal to have sexual intercourse. Next, conservative society. Patriarchy, financial disputes, personal and social conflicts also sometimes plays a strong role in witch hunting. Jealousy, property disputes, lack of medical facilities, and ignorance are the other reasons behind witch hunting. Now, if we see a data from 2001 to 2016, there is a 2,560 murders done in the name of witchcraft in between 2001 and 2016. The highest number is seen in 2010 and 2013. Now we'll look on to legislations on witch hunting. But how many laws are there, or how witch hunting is backed up by the law, and how witch hunting is termed as an offense in certain law. If first we will see how international laws are working on it. First, in that dimension, we'll look into the UDHR, that is Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It's Article 1, 3, 5, 12, 13, 17, Clause 2, and 19 protects or declares witch hunting as a violation. International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, Article 6, Clause 1, 7, 9, Clause 1, 10, 17, 18, Clause 1, Clause 2 also depicts the same. Then we have Declaration on the Protection of All Persons from being subjected to torture and other cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment or punishment. Lastly, we also have Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. It is also known as CEDAW. The other international instruments across the world are UN's Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women, then next UN's Special Rapporteur on Extrajudicial Killings, CVICT Center for Victims of Torture, FWLD Forum for Women, Law and Development, and INSEC Informal Sector Service Center are some of the organizations active in Nepal. Then we have CRARN, Child's Right and Rehabilitations Network, is another Nigeria-based NGO which educates people about the witchcraft epidemic. Another such organization working in this field is Human Rights Watch, non-profit, non-governmental human rights organization. Then we'll see how national instruments work in the protection of or in the making of how witchcraft is an offense. First of all, there is a Constitution of India's Article 14, 15 Clause 3, 15 Clause 4, 21, 51, 51 Clause A, Subclause H. Then we have Drugs and Magic Remedies, Objectionable Advertisements Act 1954, Protection of Human Rights Act 1993, Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989, then IPC Section 302 Murder, Section 299 Culpable Homicide, Section 354 Assault or Criminal Force to Women with Intent to Outrage her modesty, Section 375 Rape. Then we have certain state level instruments like the Prevention of Witch Dine Practices Act 1999 Bihar, the Prevention of Witch Dine Practices Act 2001 Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh Tonahi Pratarana Nivaran Act 2005, the Odisha's Prevention of Witch Hunting Act 2013, the Maharashtra Prevention and Eradication of Human Sacrifice and Other Inhuman, Evil and Aghori Practices and Black Magic Act 2013, the Karnataka Prevention and Eradication of Inhuman, Evil Practices and Black Magic Act 2017, the Rajasthan Prevention of Witch Hunting Act 2015, the Assam Witch Hunting Prohibition, Prevention and Protection Act 2050. Then also besides these all legislation, there is also a need of central legislation to work on the eradication of witch hunting. Before the enactments of the state level legislations on preventions of witch hunting, there were no strict laws on the subject and the accused were tried under IPC sections 323, 354, 509. And the brutal acts of stoning, torturing were treated as simple hurt. But in 2015, a movie called Kala Sach was released based on a real incident in Jharkhand wherein one Sita Devi was accused of being a witch and as a punishment, her body was pierced with needle. Her husband was made handicapped, but the accused were not convicted. The movie was an initiative to request the central government to enact a central legislation on the subject matter. Besides, the law already in force are insufficient as they focus on punishment mechanism but don't respond to the need of eradicating the irrational and evil superstitious belief. The ways of reporting cases are also limited and the emergent needs of the victims and survivors are not tended. In many cases, the accused, usually powerful males of the villages, are left unpunished because the attacks are portrayed as being a result of mob fury. The victims or other people usually don't come forward to report it due to fear or their acceptance of the practice. And lack of evidence leads to release of the perpetrators, and the practice of witch hunting violates civil rights provided by international treaties and the Constitution, including right to security, right to life, right against discrimination, and right to live a decent life and other more fundamental rights. The Prevention of Witch Hunting Bill was first introduced in Lok Sabha in 2016 by Sri Raghav Lakhanpal, but was never passed. Present laws do not provide an effective mechanism to help the victims to recover from the consequences of witch hunting, including forced displacement, expulsion from the village, socio and economic boycott, etc. Hence, there is a dire need of national level legislation to eradicate this evil altogether. Then certain case laws are also there with regards to witch hunting practice. First is Tula Devi and others versus State of Jharkhand, 2006. In this case, about 10 people armed with sticks entered the house of the complainant and abused and assaulted her. They used to call her and address her as Diane for the last 2 years and threatened her to leave the place. Her husband tried to rescue her, but he was also assaulted. This caused the woman mental agony. Some partition suits were also going on, and the woman was accused of being a witch to put pressure on them. However, the case was dismissed on the ground of lack of eyewitness. Next is Madhu Munda and others versus State of Bihar 2003. In this case, a mother was dragged out of the house by some people. She was reported to be missing. FIR was filed. 8 days later, mother was found and said that those people threw her in a ditch where she fell unconscious. On regaining consciousness, she went to her brother's house. In this case, also the accused was not convicted due to the unreliable testimony of the witness. Next case law, State of West Bengal versus Kali Singh and others. It was a criminal appeal. In this case, Calcutta High Court observed that judicial execution in the cases of witch hunting does not help in eradicating this evil because it has its root in psyche of men. The court, while commuting to life the death sentence of 7 men guilty of killing 3 women, believing them to be witches, held the state irresponsible in discharging its duty of providing education in every nook and corner of the country. Next, we have certain roles of NGOs and social activists. Perhaps the most famous person to have raised his voice against superstitions is Narendra Dabolkar, an Indian medical doctor, social activist, rationalist, who was the founder and president of Maharashtra Andhshraddha Nirmulan Samiti in 1989. He was committed to eradicate superstition in Maharashtra, and under his supervision, the man framed the anti-Jadu Tona bill, but it was opposed by some political parties, and he was murdered in 20 August 2013. After his death, the bill was considered again and was passed in December 2013. Center for Social Justice is also an organization fighting for women's rights and rights for marginalized people, such as Adivasi women who were attacked in witch hunts in Gujarat. Birubala Rabha is another social activist credited for putting pressure on the Assam government to enact one of the country's strictest anti-witch hunting laws. Eda Marku's organization, the Indian Rationalist Association, tries to eradicate this practice by scientific means. Partners for Law in Development 1998 is another organization working for women's rights. The organization named Anandi Area Network and Development Initiative works for rehabilitation of survivors of witch hunting. This group helps women in rural areas and work on call responded to gender violence. Then we have certain case study in January 2019 in Odisha, Mangri Munda, a tribal woman along with her 2 sons and 2 daughters were murdered and their bodies were dumped in a well close to their house. People believed her to be a witch capable of doing black magic. The main accused in the case was Budram Munda, who was the witch doctor. People thought that she was responsible for a long-running sickness in the accused family. The case of Magri Munda is only one example among the many where innocent women are accused of being witches and are held responsible for the deaths of children, illness spreading in the village, and other mishappenings going on in the village. Lastly, we have many more practices like witch hunting is a blot on our present day society. The country is walking on the path of advancement, but still the basic right to a decent life is denied to people in many parts of our country. In modern days, witch hunting, women are tortured, robbed, and killed for being labeled as witch. Giving this label, whether it's because someone wants their land or because they need someone to blame for an unfortunate event, has become a dangerous move nowadays. Organizations should be established to deal with such cases expeditiously and in delicate manner as a matter of priority. An effective central legislation banning the practice of witch hunting with a strong enforcement mechanism is the need of the hour. It is only when evils like witch hunting are eradicated from the society that the complete enjoyment of civil liberties by people can become a reality. Even with the new laws, we cannot fully conclude that there will be a proper eradication of this barbaric practice, but only lower the activity to some amount. And advocate Shankari Prasad Bhattacharjee, a Guwahati High Court, of Guwahati High Court, said that People who practice witch hunting, are so illiterate, so blind in thought that until and unless you make some effort to enlighten them about the laws and consequences of their action, I don't think there will be any more effect. Thank you. Thank you for the session. Thank you, everyone.